I'm going to be preparing Jim Lahey's zucchini pizza. The dough I've done in advance. Please see the video that I've done before. The link will be below. You want 2.5 pounds of zucchini. Cut off one of the ends. Make sure they're completely washed, which I've done here already. And what you want to do is have a large bowl, and you can use just a grater on the large size. You don't want to do it really thin. And I'm doing this all by hand. Normally I would do it in the Cuisinart food processor, but I wanted everybody to see that you can do this completely by hand. So you want to get in there and you want to grate all of the zucchini. Takes a few minutes, but it'll give your arm a little bit of a workout. So just keep grating through the zucchini. And what you want to do is make sure that it's all even and will cook evenly. So we'll speed right through that. Also, it doesn't matter the sizes of the zucchini. You can use small, medium, large. Just make sure it's 2.5 pounds. Alrighty. So once you get it all grated, I was rushing. You're gonna be able to get all the extra liquid out, and I'll show you how to do that. And see, I take it down to just the very nub almost. And you want to clean it all out because you want to make sure you get all that zucchini in there, because this is a great way to use some of your summer squash. You can use other summer squash. It doesn't have to just be zucchini. You want to use some yellow squash or something like that. That's fine. But zucchini, lots of people have gardens that just put out tons of it every summer, and this is a great way to use up some of it. All right, so you have your bowl, and what you're going to do is you're going to get fine sea salt, and you use 1.5 teaspoons, okay? And you're just going to sprinkle that on to the zucchini. Now, you can use kosher salt if you want, but it's really better to have the fine sea salt, okay? And what I do is my hands are washed. This is only for my family, so please don't come at me about the gloves. But I usually just use my hand to mix it up, because you want to get that salt throughout it, and it's not just going to flavor it, but what it does is it pulls out some of the juices. Okay? You want to pull out as much liquid as possible so that you don't end up with a soggy pizza. All right? So you let it sit for at least half an hour. All right, and you'll feel it. It's a lot more wet, okay? You'll see a little bit of water or green water that's accumulated on the bottom, and you want to strain it for a while. Now, I should have put a bowl underneath or a plate. You'll see why in a minute. But my counters get cleaned repeatedly with food safe disinfected, so it'll be fine. So you put it in a strainer. Okay, and I'm a little OCD. I like to make sure I get all the last bit of it out and just get it into the strainer. And I'm going to use the same bowl and just pick it up and strain it in, which is part of why I didn't do the plate. I figure I got paper towels. Okay, and so you're just going to let it sit in the strainer for about 30 minutes or longer. You could do this the night before. Let it sit in your refrigerator. Let it strain all night. It'd be perfect. It'd be really good. Okay. Now, you'll see on the bottom, it's already collecting more liquid. All right. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to walk away. All right. I'll come back maybe about an hour. All right. I like to kind of spread it out a little bit so that it goes through some of the other holes and strains out a little more. Okay. While that's straining, you need 2 cups of Gruyère cheese. I never say that right. Now, if you don't have that, you want to use a salty, flavorful cheese. You can go with mozzarella, half Parmigiano Romano. You want something nice and sharp. You want it full of flavor, because that's where a lot of your flavor and salt's coming from. Okay? It's about 8 ounces of cheese, which is what I'm grating here. All right, so I've got that all ready to go. We're good to go. All righty. So, and like I said, my counters have been disinfected. Don't worry about it. So now that the zucchini is out there, it still has more liquid. And like I said, see how much it's come out still? we want to get as much as possible out. Now, some people will squeeze it in a towel. Some people use cheesecloth. But I want you to see you can use just your hands to do these things. You don't need a fancy food processor. You don't need a salad spinner. You don't need any of that. You just grab some in your hand, squeeze it as much as you can. See how I'm doing it? See how much is still coming out? Squeeze as much as you can. Just keep squeezing, okay? It'll take you 5 minutes to do this, but it'll be worth it, because if you don't do this, you will have a very wet, soggy pizza dough. Most of us prefer not to have it soggy, okay? And so you just really want to take the time to do this. Now, if you have a salad spinner, go for it. Put it in your salad spinner, spin it, get it all out, and then still pat it down, okay? If you have a tea towel that you like to squeeze, like to squeeze out the liquid from potatoes and different things like that, put it in your tea towel, twist it closed, squeeze all the liquid out, okay? Whatever your preferred method, completely up to you. But look how much more I got out just by squeezing it with my hands. Now I washed the bowl because I'm going to reuse it, but I want to get the zucchini even drier. So, and you can see it's clumping, so it's not super wet anymore. And so I just spread it out on a couple paper towels. This way, I don't have extra laundry. I have enough laundry in my life, okay? And so I just use paper towels. They're clean, and I press out even more. Look how wet those are getting. All right? And trust me, it's worth doing this. It's so good. And like I said, you don't want a soggy, gross crust, all right? And so you can see, and I just kind of comes right off the paper towel, just as if I had used a thin tea towel or something like that, which is, like I said, completely your option. I just don't want to do any extra laundry. So kind of break it up a little with your fingers, all right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to add all that cheese. Okay? Yes, I have to stop and wipe it up. So you're going to add all the cheese. Okay? Now, what I'm doing there is I'm tasting my zucchini to see if it's salty enough. I'm tasting that there's not enough. Okay? Now, mind you, the cheese will add salt, but I was tasting no salt in that. All right? So I added a little salt. Maybe a 1/4 teaspoon is what I added when I did that. Dump in all the cheese, and you want to use your fingers and just kind of mix it together so that it mixes really well and gets all intertangled, okay? You don't want clumps of zucchini and clumps of cheese. You want it all kind of meldy together, okay? Yes, I tend to make up my own words. So you just kind of keep pulling it from under and let it drop together and stir it around. Just get it really well mixed. Alrighty. Okay, I just keep kind of dropping it with my fingers, right? There we go. And I just want to make sure I don't have big clumps. That's the thing, or even tiny clumps, because I prefer to have the flavor be consistent throughout the dish. Right? So it may seem a little excessive, but you can see how well mixed it's now, right? And that took about a minute. And yes, I'm going to dump the cheese because can't let good cheese go to waste, all right? So I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to put out the pizza dough. Now, as I said, I made this pizza dough previously, and it's in another video, which I will link below, all right? There's your dough. That is a half sheet pan, which is 18 by 13 inches. My dough has risen for about 3 hours at this point. It's soft and slack. It's kind of a shaggy, no knead dough. It's not going to hold its shape. And it might be a little tough to handle sometimes. So you want to put olive oil on the bottom of your pan and spread it. Okay? And just use your hands. And what you want to do is you want to get it all over the pan. Okay? Up the sides, get it really well coated, and then don't wipe your hands, because see, I didn't do that. And you want to spread the dough. For more detailed, go check out my video on the pizza dough, and you get it all nice and ready, okay? Like I said, did not wipe the olive oil off my hands because it helps spread your dough. All right, it's a nice thin crust. It's very thin crust. All right, see, I'm pinching together little holes that, no big deal. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna top it with the zucchini mixture. Just get your hands, and I start on the outside because you want the outside edges to be a little thicker because that's what browns first. All right, so I kind of pile it all around the edges and just, you know, like the bushes around your garden kind of thing. Yeah. Just keep sprinkling it around. And you're going to take this all the way to the edge. You're not leaving a crust like a typical pizza dough, okay? You're not going to have a crust to hold on to or anything like that, okay? And so you'll see I'm going all the way to the edge with it. So once I went around, I put the rest evenly. And I'm just going through and spreading it. Like I said, if it's thicker anywhere, it's along the outside borders because that's what's going to brown first. And it'll get this nice crispy edge. It's just so good, okay? And so I just kind of keep playing with it, all right? Now, I wanted to add a little kick and a little more salt and pepper. So I'm doing just a couple sprinklings of salt and pepper. Okay, that's my sea salt. Okay, I tend to like saltier food. And then I'm doing some fresh cracked pepper. And it's a little slow because, well, I need to add more peppercorns to the grinder. And I was just going a little slow because of that. Because I do love fresh pepper in it too, all right? And so that's just part of what I chose to do. You can leave the extra salt and pepper off, okay? All right, so you just get your pepper on there if you like it. And then I did want, like I said, to spice it up a little bit. Now I have days that I can handle a lot more spice than others. So I went very lightly with the dried red pepper seeds, okay? You can see I checked to see how fast it's coming out first and then very lightly sprinkled it on. Maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon over the whole thing, okay? Just to give it a little bit, all right? And then you have 2 to 3 tablespoons of fine breadcrumbs, and I added a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder to it. And you want to just sloppily spread that around. I had some little clumps, and so I don't like the little clumps to stick together, so that's what I was picking up. And so you just sprinkle it over, and what that'll do is help absorb any other moisture that might be in the zucchini, and that way, like I said, to help avoid the soggy crust. How many times can I say soggy crust during this video? Might be a drinking game. Hold on, folks. All right, so I get that all on, and like I said, little OCD. So I had to get the last little bit of it in there, right? It looks great, already smells great. I'm going to put this in a 500-degree oven for 25 minutes, and look at how golden brown and crispy edged that came out. The house smelled amazing. My youngest son came down and goes, "What is that smell?" He loved it, okay? Crispy edge, thin crust,